Ayrton Senna. Senna has come up through the field. He started in 13th place and is now 7th. Ayrton Senna.
Racers come and go, but legends remain forever. Imagine a young boy from Brazil with racing in his veins, beginning his journey on the go-kart tracks. That's Ayrton Senna. This is a story that's more than just racing. Ayrton Senna da Silva was a Brazilian icon who reigned supreme with 3 Formula One World Drivers' Championships under his belt. He won the British Formula 3 Championship, unmistakably marking his arrival on the racing scene in 1983. A couple of years later, between 1985 and 1987, Senna raced to the top, bagging 6 victories with Lotus Renault. 1988 was another highlight reel. Partnering with Alain Prost at McLaren Honda, they dominated, snatching 15 of the 16 Grand Prix. The trophy cabinet got more crowded that same year as Senna added his first world championship. He wasn't done though. 1990 and 1991 saw him securing his 2nd and 3rd world titles. Even when Williams Renault seemed unstoppable in 1993, Senna showed his mettle, claiming 5 race wins and finishing as runner-up. And speaking of records, for 17 long years, from 1989 to 2006, he became the king of pole positions by winning 65 of them. If you ever want to witness magic on wet tracks, just look up Senna's wet weather races, especially the 1984 Monaco Grand Prix. Senna's record for 41 Grand Prix stood tall until 2006. His contribution to the sport was so remarkable that he remains one of the only 3 Brazilians to win the World Championship. But like every legend, there's a journey filled with turns, speed bumps, and straight paths. Born on a Monday morning on March 21, 1960 in Santana, Sao Paulo, Senna, fondly nicknamed Beco by his family, was the middle child of a wealthy Brazilian family. Imagine a young Ayrton Senna, not as the F1 legend we know today, but as a curious kid with a wild side. Surprisingly, while he was fairly athletic in sports like gymnastics, the little daredevil struggled with poor motor coordination. He found it hard to climb stairs at the age of 3. Doctors even checked his brain with fancy machines like an electroencephalogram, but everything came out clear. So what's a kid who has trouble with stairs doing on a racetrack? By 7, while most kids were busy with toys, Beco was out on his family's farm driving a Jeep. School was a blur, with Senna focusing more on his love for racing. His first kart was a DIY project with his dad using a lawnmower engine. At just 13, Senna took on the track at Interlagos with that DIY kart. Not only did he join the race, but he started on pole position. Sadly, a collision with a rival forced him out, but this was just a hiccup in the epic journey that lay ahead. Senna raced his way to victory when in 1977 he won the South American Kart Championship. Between 78 and 82, he was a regular at the Karting World Championship, even coming close to the title in 79 and 80. In 78, he teamed up with Terry Fullerton. He once said that racing against Terry Fullerton was the most satisfying, mainly because it was pure racing, no politics.
It was pure driving, pure racing. There wasn't any politics.
By 1981, the racer boy decided to try out single-seater racing, so off he went to England, settling down near Norwich. In his debut year, he swooped up the Royal Automobile Club and Townsend Thoresen Formula Ford 1600 championships. But like all epic tales, there's a twist. Senna briefly quit, pressured to join the family business. But just as he was about to dive into the family business, an offer came knocking. It was a chance to race in Formula Ford 2000 for 10 grand. Luckily, he returned, rebranded himself as Senna, his mother's last name, and continued his passion for racing. With solid backing from sponsors like Bonaire & Pool, he won another title, the 1982 British and European Formula Ford 2000 Championships. By 1983, Senna was testing for major F1 teams like Williams, McLaren, Brabham, and Toleman. Though all of them saw his potential, it was Toleman who offered Senna his first F1 opportunity in 1984. Cut to the Brazilian Grand Prix in Rio in March, Senna's big debut. He kicked off from the 17th spot but had to bow out early because of a turbocharger problem. It was not the start he'd hoped for, but Senna never backed down. By his second race in South Africa, despite battling severe neck and shoulder cramps, he secured his first World Championship point with a 6th-place finish, a feat he repeated 2 weeks later in Belgium. Yet the real jaw-dropper came at Monaco in May. With rain lashing down, Senna starting 13th, slicing through the grid, and even overtaking the legendary Niki Lauda. He was on fire, reeling in the leader Alain Prost at an unreal 4 seconds per lap. But just as things were heating up, the race had to be called off because the rain went from bad to worse. However, the year awaited yet another challenge. By the end of it, Senna faced a health problem, Bell's palsy, a virus that paralyzed one side of his face. But with medical help from Sid Watkins, FIA's top medical expert, he was on the horizon of recovery. Zooming into the next season, Senna was back in style at the Portuguese Grand Prix in 1985. Not only did he get his first pole position, but also won his first race, in heavy rain. Senna called it the best drive of his career. But as always, the racetrack had more twists and turns upcoming. Senna had a streak of bad luck, leading in San Marino, Monaco, British, and German Grands Prix, only to face the double trouble of engine failures or empty tanks. Yet Senna made a comeback after securing second place at the Austrian Grand Prix. However, despite his early impressive lap time at Monaco, Senna faced criticism from both Alboreto and Niki Lauda. Let's race forward to 1987. Senna was in his best form, bagging victories at Monaco and Detroit in a row. Monaco was like his second home, with 6 wins, and Detroit was a historic win for a car with active suspension. He ended the season while finishing second in Japan and Australia. However, it was later revealed that Lotus's brake ducts were slightly oversized, which caused him to be disqualified. Even then, he closed the season in the 3rd position with 57 points. In 1987, Senna teamed up with Honda. This was an important move that would lead to his partnership with McLaren. 1994 was an intense year for Formula One, especially at the San Marino Grand Prix. Senna, a legend on the track, had a rocky start to the season, with no finishes in the first 2 races. He was determined to change that at Imola, aiming to tackle the title in the remaining 14 races rather than the full 16. Sensing the urgency, Williams rolled out their modified FW16 cars, hoping to give Senna the edge he needed. But then the unexpected struck. During Saturday's qualifying, rookie Roland Ratzenberger faced a fatal accident. Deeply affected, Senna rushed to the crash site in the medical center. There, he met Professor Sid Watkins. Watkins proposed to Senna to retire and switch to fishing, a shared passion. Ever the racer at heart, Senna responded that he could not stop racing. On Sunday morning, with a mission to boost safety in F1 racing, Senna, being the experienced driver he was ready to lead the pack, starting from the next race in Monaco. However, a few hours later, tragedy struck. As Senna raced through the high-speed Tamburello corner on the 7th lap, his car skidded off the track at a blazing 190 miles per hour. It smashed into a wall and the race came to a halt. Within moments, Sid Watkins and his medical team were by Senna's side, doing everything they could. He was airlifted to Bologna's Maggiore Hospital. By 1840, the hospital broke the tragic news. Senna passed on. The doctor said his brain had stopped functioning when he hit the wall. They later found an Austrian flag in Senna's car. He'd planned to raise it after the race in tribute to Roland Ratzenberger, who tragically passed away the day before. Brazil was heartbroken. Senna wasn't just a racer, he was a national icon. The government declared 3 days of national mourning. Moreover, Senna's home city of Sao Paulo saw something they'd never seen before. Over 500,000 fans, grieving, crying, and mourning, lined the streets. It was a sea of people, all there for their hero, the largest funeral procession the city had ever seen. And so, in the cruelest twists, the legend of Ayrton Senna came to an end. Modern-day racers often cite Senna as their primary inspiration. Hamilton, a 7-time world champion, has repeatedly spoken about how Senna's races shaped his childhood dream to race in F1. Many racers of this generation have grown up watching Senna's iconic drives, adopting his never-give-up attitude and determination. Post the tragic San Marino Grand Prix in 1994, Formula One underwent a massive transformation. Senna's death, as well as Ratzenberger's, was a wake-up call. F1 implemented a raft of safety measures, both in terms of car design and track layouts. After the roaring engines and the burning rubber fade away, legends like Ayrton Senna leave an indelible mark on the sport that transcends their lifetime.